So we're reaching the end of the day, so thank you all for joining us on our final session that we've got through here. And what we're going to be talking about is the changing route to market and how the channel is changing, how vendors are serving providers through the channel, what does the channel look like in the future. And the way we look at this from a research perspective, the channel has been the way that technology has been adopted for businesses. We see them as the driver for what's happening, but there's some massive changes happening through there. We've seen the reduction in spiffs, the reduction in residuals, margins getting squeezed by different products. And today we're going to be talking to some of the leaders of the channel, let's call it, about what they're doing, how is it all changing, what are they seeing through there. If anyone's got any questions, also please just stick your hand up and I will bring you the mic. But maybe we could start with you, Florian, a bit of a quick introduction, who you are, where you work, and then we can carry on from there.
Absolutely. So it's Florian Botzin, the founder and CEO of Starface. We are an PBX vendor in Germany, located close to Frankfurt in Karlsruhe. We are doing this for 18 years now and having a reseller channel of 3,200 resellers in the area, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, France, and a little bit in the Netherlands. Yeah, that's basically what we do.
Thank you. Nathan.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for coming to the end of the day slot. I'm Nathan Mark, I'm COO of Geocom. We are a UK-based business. We call ourselves a specialist cloud marketplace. What I mean by that is there's about 6,000 technology resellers, VARs, MSPs that buy on our platform. And what we try to do with the platform is make it really simple for all of those channel partners to access cloud, comms, hardware, billing, products and services from the best vendors and carriers in the world, so they can create brilliant solutions for small businesses in the UK. So that's us.
Fantastic, thank you. And Brad.
Hi everyone, Brad Milne, Managing Director of Channel UC. Flown all the way over from Australia to attend the event, so love being here, although the weather's not as great as it is back home. Channel UC, we're a cloud communications enabler. We essentially enable our partner community to sell voice and data and other managed services throughout Australia, New Zealand, and into the US and European markets. So that's us.
Fantastic. And Anand.
Hi everybody, Anand Butch, Chief Strategy Officer of Crescendo, former founder and CEO of NetSapiens, which is the platform and the software division. We have about 220 odd service providers globally, about 4 million seats through those folks, both direct, channel, both white label and channel.
Fantastic. So we've got a range of providers here, from kind of vendor to disty to resale to vendor again. So I think we've got some good questions coming up through here. And maybe from talking to you, Nathan, we're going to start off here. What services are your channel partners, when they're speaking, what services are your end customers demanding most, and how's that changing what you're selling to them?
Yeah, thanks, Dom. It's probably worth just defining the UK market that we think about firstly. Our channel partners serve small businesses, and we think about them as normally sort of 10 employees up to about 500 employees. And in the UK, there's about 250,000 customers like that, and they're spending about 50 billion on tech. So it's a really big market. The channel market, I think, in the UK is a little bit more mature than some of the other markets that maybe we're going to discuss today. From research that we've seen, we think about 70% of the dollars that go through to the end customer in IT services are spent with the channel, and it's about 50% when it comes to telco services. So that's kind of the market. But what we're seeing is a very significant channel shift towards and in favor of companies that can provide strategic services and be a strategic partner to SMBs. And we typically see those companies characterized as MSPs, managed service providers. So these MSPs are winning significant market share over other routes to market, like resellers and VARs, I'm afraid to say, but also the telcos direct, the retailers, and also the tech vendors direct. And we think there's a really clear reason for that in the UK. So if we go back to cast your mind back to pre-pandemic, back in 2019, and I'm going to make a gross generalization, but SMBs were buying tech in a very tactical way. So, an SMB would spend a lot of money on technology. It was growing fast in the UK, 7% back at the time. But SMBs, if they were asked, they wouldn't say their business really relied on technology. They thought it was important, but it wasn't strategic. And they'd buy in a very fragmented way. So they'd buy telco from a telco reseller. They might pop down the mobile phone shop and buy some O2 or Vodafone. They get their credit card out and buy some Microsoft licenses. It was very fragmented. And that's one of the reasons why when we sort of flew into the pandemic, SMBs were so badly equipped to cope with what happened, and why the reseller channel did so well, because we helped help the SMBs to survive. But if we sort of roll through to where we are today, we do think that there's been a very significant change in what SMBs are looking for, because they can't let that happen again. SMBs are all moving towards, accepting the fact that work has changed. We're talking about remote work and hybrid work. If you're going to support remote and hybrid work, you need to support a remote IT model, and largely that involves moving your business, your data, your applications into the cloud and securing it. And if you're going to do that, the partnerships that you had back pre-pandemic aren't suitable, which is why we think that MSPs are on the rise and why we think that they are the ones that are really set to capitalize and to gain. So that's what we're seeing in the UK.
Brad, your view from an Australian perspective, how's the customer changing from your perspective then?
I think we're seeing quite similar to the UK market in terms of the MSPs driving growth through the telco, and that could either be by accident or via acquisition. But what we're finding is that they're increasingly looking for vendors or partners or distributors who can deliver a service quickly and efficiently. And we've essentially adjusted our entire business model to ensure that we can deliver certain functions end-to-end on their behalf. So if you look at our business now, we can do everything from pre-sales engagement, post-sales engagement, even the end-user support, user acceptance testing, all the scope of works. We can deliver everything end-to-end on their behalf while white labeling it as their service. And we're seeing that a pretty big uptake on that because of this they've stumbled into this part of the market, but it is by far the biggest growth segment of the market from a reseller acquisition point of view.
Interesting. And Florian, from your perspective, obviously as a vendor, what's a good channel partner look like?
Well, we take them all if they want to buy our solution, they differentiate at the point where their offering is starting to the end customer. So depending the ones and all the minor ones who try to do an one-time sale, they were in the past they were the ones that were doing good jobs, but with pandemic, everyone sort of understood that having an MSP model in place is going to survive. It's better for them to survive, and it's helping them to grow at the same time. So what we see, or what we have seen, is that resellers that had an MSP model in place beforehand, they grew quite a lot better. And even so for us, it's like, okay, if they have a good opportunity, if they have a good offering for the market and it's working properly, they make a lot of money. It's going to make us happy as well because they grow and we can grow with them. So that's why if they have an MSP model in place, we say, well, great and well done. If they don't, we educate them. We help them and tell them, okay, well, this is the direction that could help you to grow even faster.
Fantastic. And now, same question. Obviously, you've got a number of service provider customers. What differentiates a good one from a average one?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that we see within our ecosystem primarily is just laser focus on, I think the comment was made, being a trusted advisor, but knowing, quite honestly, figuring out what not to do. Because there are a lot of things, a lot of noise in the marketplace. And so the folks that we see, they have the right tools in place, they have the right integrations, they understand what their operational efficiencies are and what they're good at. And they lead with what that experience is. And it's not, quite frankly, it's not as much about, at least from what we see, it's not as much about kind of the features or the products in mass or broadly, but rather what's specific to their markets. A lot of verticalization, a lot of specialization, a lot of MSPs kind of globally, and then having the ability to actually, shape something in their image, in their brand, so they can differentiate from the biggest players.
It's interesting, that point around differentiation. We see a lot of channel providers looking the same, selling the same kind of product. So enabling that differentiation is pretty key there. To you, Brad, just thinking around kind of on the opposite side, when you're choosing vendors to go into your portfolio, what makes a good vendor?
Well, I think we have a number of factors that we look for when we come across vendors, but I mean, a product is obviously one, but generally you're engaging a vendor because you see a market opportunity for their product, so that's sort of not the main one, but we're very big around culture, so there has to be a cultural fit, both for them and us within the business. We're also an entrepreneurial-led, family-led business, so they need to be able to keep up with our growth and our adoption of different market segments. And then, we have, like most people now, that you're sort of an OSS, BSS platform, so they need to have open APIs that we can consume and then our partners can consume on via our platform. So those are the three driving factors for us. I think sort of price and product they're obviously a factor, but they're definitely not the main factors when we're engaging anymore.
That makes sense. Nathan, would you agree with that or add anything?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It was interesting. The much more packed session than this one just now was the telco to techco conversation. I was listening with interest because we've been partnering with telcos for years, and actually we've created a bit of niche in the market by creating wholesale products off the carriers' networks, but often without them giving us anything in the tech stack. So we've done green screen integrations and all sorts of horrible things to try to automate the products. And I was really interested in the comments, particularly from Vodafone and BT, and just thinking, well, that's brilliant, guys. I'll be so happy when I see this, because actually that has been holding us back, to your point. So of course you want. We've got some really bright product managers, product directors. They track the market. They look at what's up and coming, things that are going to really, really make money for the MSP, things that create a services opportunity for the MSP, and then they'll bid to get it onto our platform. But it's not just about that market opportunity. It's also about what are we trying to do as a techco to make it really easy for the MSP to deliver services. So we're thinking about how do we bundle, how do we do sales and order management, how do we automate provisioning services, how do we deliver support, how do we deliver in-life care, how do we bill, and how do we make that operation seamless? Because actually for an MSP to make money, you need to really help them to take friction out of their delivery model. So that's one of the most important things. I'll give you an example. So last year we were very lucky. We signed an exclusive agreement with Sky Business. Sky are launching a range of very competitive telco products out to market this year. And what was really interesting about working with Sky is that Sky is not a telco. Sky's an entertainment business, and their whole model has been about UX. And it's been a world of difference working with those guys around creating a really differentiated UX for how do you consume those sets of products. It's incredibly important. I can't overemphasize it.
Interesting on that. Where do we think money is going to be made in the future, Florian? So obviously you're doing a PBX and moving into cloud PBX. Is that where the value is in the German market, or where do you think you're going to enable those partners to make money in the future?
As mentioned before, I think the add-ons the reseller is going to put on top of our solutions is what is key for the reseller to make money. Mm-hmm. They do earn quite some money by selling our stuff, but to be honest, their service is what they keeps them up and what they can offer, and they can work with the real value is generated for the end customer. So it's always like the solution is part of it, but whatever the reseller is putting on top is usually more interesting.
And Anand, to you on that as well, is that similar to what you're seeing? Or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we've expanded into the international markets, there's a bit of a trail with respect to when that conversion is happening, whether it's on-prem to cloud, just for basic voice functionality or PBX functionality. But the reality is it's that overlay, the PBX piece, makes it sticky, if you will. But I think the reality is this was commoditizing pretty quickly. And as your slides pointed out earlier, right, I think at the end of the day, it boils down to, value-added services that can maintain margin, and having a solution that's, flexible enough that allows you to, go to market, integrate, have APIs, so on and so forth. A lot of CX discussion, right, obviously during the event already. But it's a lot of those add-on services to differentiate your service beyond just, basic telephony.
Do you think that enables your partners to differentiate in different ways on top of that? you've obviously got a number of partners out there selling your product. Is the value-added service where they differentiate, or is it in marketing, or is it brand?
And I think that the reality is the answer, all of the above, right? Because the underlying, the margin erosion has been there, continues to be there, right? And then with the likes of, the domination of Microsoft Teams, the commoditization where everything looks alike, right? I think you have to continue to foster an ecosystem of third parties and integrations that lie on top of the platform, right? And whether that's, again, for a specific, I'll give you one example. We have a customer that's doing very, very well in North America, specific to home services, pest control, things of that nature. But then the specialized CRM systems that exist for that market then have to be, seamlessly integrated to whatever your communication or comm system is, right? And so you see that across the board, and that's where the value and the margin is, because your SME or your SMB is looking for something that's bespoke to them, but they want it at the price point that they can get a Microsoft Teams for example.
How's that impacting your business, Microsoft Teams? Obviously, we talked about it a lot today, but does that pose a challenge to the channel, would you say? I'll go with you, Nathan.
Well, we're a fairly major Microsoft partner, so we're a beneficiary, I guess, of Microsoft's growth. We've got about 2 million Microsoft licenses under support on the platform, largest CSP in the UK. But there are certainly challenges, yeah. Maybe just to go back to that kind of characterization about how the channel is evolving. So, we've broadly got a few different communities of channel partners still, and it depends on where they're evolving from. So you've got telco partners, you've got IT services partners, you've got print management partners, you've got consultancies, developers, those sorts of businesses. And only a couple of those categories really have been born into the Microsoft community, so they've got to build out that capability. I think our view, and I've heard it several times today from other speakers, is that whether you like it or not, Microsoft is a real anchor product. It is the core of the modern workplace stack for huge amounts of businesses, and you can go against that. But so what we're seeking to do is take all four of those channel provider types and really help them with whatever they need in order to get the capabilities so that they can offer that core. Because I think if they can't offer that core and the security around it and have a decent conversation with the customer about what Gen AI is going to mean to their business in 10 years' time and that sort of stuff, then I don't think they will be the strategic partner. And then they can pull through all the brilliant things that we've heard today about CX and, creating incredible customer experience and that sort of thing. But without that core, I think it's a challenge. So a lot of it is about skilling up the channel to have that capability.
And that's a very good point around skilling up the channel. We've seen where contact centers been successfully sold. The teams selling it have usually got a lot of heritage doing that. They know what they're doing. We're now seeing this demand for CX coming in the SMB. Is the channel equipped to do that and sell that services to that? Or are there specialist channel providers who are going to end up doing that and it's not for everyone? Brad, do you have a viewpoint on that?
I do. I think that's pretty much why we've geared up our business to do what we're doing, is because the SMB space in the Australian market and pretty much everywhere in the world is 75% of our market. If you look at the major contact center players, they're all targeting the 250 seats and above. The market segment in that sub 50 seat space is massive and no one's going after it. And that's predominantly our success rate is in the 15 to 50 contact center seats. The partners that you have in that space, they don't have the ability to deliver contact center. They've generally stumbled into a contact center space, or what we find is 10 to 12% of the user population is customer engagement, contact center, whatever you want to call it these days. So they are generally targeting that 200 to 300 seat opportunity with no ability to really roll out the contact center side. So they're engaging us to be able to deliver that while then seeing, you've got all these other services that we can consume and you make it so easy. And so our transition into the Teams calling space has come predominantly because of our success around the wraparound services, and then they consume the Teams calling side. So it hasn't gone, we haven't focused on the Teams calling side first and then try to get into the contact center space.
That's interesting on that. And Florian, from a German perspective, do you see as much impact from Microsoft in the market, or is it still not German business not mature enough to take that Teams piece, and then still focus on the PBX side of things?
Well, what we've seen so far is like a lot of big vendors fail in Germany, starting with 8x8. RingCentral is doing fairly well, however. So all the big guys are really having a struggle to enter Germany. Microsoft's a little bit different, as well. Starting up a free product is always good in Germany. So making it easy to hop in, to give it a try and see how it works, and then maybe stick to it and stay with it. So it's going to be quite interesting now how it evolves as pricing is going to come up. But Microsoft, well, a lot of people are open for Microsoft and Microsoft products. At the same time, no one's trying to compete or battle against Microsoft. We're all talking about integration and filling the pieces that are needed or are not there. Microsoft is generating an all around the world product. So it has to fit for South Africa as in the same way as Australia, is in the same way as for Germany. And the demands for the German markets are quite high on telephony. And so what we are looking at is filling these gaps. And that's what we're doing. Like, we're not going to compete with them. We're just helping them to win in some ways and winning at the same time.
Dom, if I can just add to that, I think we're seeing that the fastest growing and most successful MSPs also are pretty mature at partnering. They're very good at partnering, and they don't have to do everything themselves. You know, we see a lot of partnering, particularly around security, around SOC services, around line of business applications, but also around things like CX. And I think if you've got a good partnering model, you can, you know, go broader and deeper with your customer without necessarily building all the skills in-house. I think it's an important characteristic.
And when you say partnering model, are you talking commercial partnering? Are you talking marketing support? What's that model?
It could be any of those things. We've seen a variety of different things. Sometimes they're partnerships that are very blatantly pre-acquisition, but they can be marketing, they can be margin share, commission share on projects. They can be very much sat behind the services model of the primary provider, you know, as a call-off. There's loads of different models for it. My point is that, you know, to be a strategic partner for a small business these days, you have to go broader and deeper. And I think there are core services that you need to have, but you don't have to have them all. And I think, you know, the models that we're hearing described here are absolutely about that, about how do you partner to deliver for the customer.
Fantastic. Have we got any questions from the audience? Just seeing if anyone wants to add in any thoughts, comments, questions. No? Very good.
I'll chip in on what you're saying, because I agree wholeheartedly that with the breadth of the portfolio. Am I loud? Microphone there. Thank you. Should I sit up there? No. With the breadth of the portfolio becoming so broad, the challenge I saw was that the skill of the salesperson or the knowledge of the salesperson is very hard. It's very difficult to go from product expert to new player in a new industry. So it's that technical pre-sales supporting good customer investigation that looks like the model to me that will win out. Is that how, I mean, Brad, we've talked about this a lot, but is that how you guys see it, that you've got an increasing level of importance, especially maybe for the first 2 or 3 years of a new marketplace for a partner, to help them get to becoming product experts themselves?
Yeah, I mean, we've organised ourselves for that reason into practices with specialists, and the specialists engage around security, AI, modern workplace, mobile mobility, connectivity, for exactly that reason. And actually, we're seeing that model very much replicated within our customers, within the MSPs, for exactly the reason you're describing.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit to, we talked about UCaaS, we talked about this, selling services together and how they're bundled together. Is that the role of where you're sitting as a kind of distributor and bringing those together, or is that the role of the channel to bring them together? And what are you doing to help build that, build those bundles for that? Brad, can we start with yourself on that?
I think it's a cool question. So I think partners are looking at providers like us because almost like trusted advisors. You know, there's a lot of market hype out there. There's a lot of talk about different products. A lot of them, as Anand was saying earlier, they all look pretty similar. So it's how, for a partner coming into a UCaaS space or a contact center space, there's so much choice. So they're looking to, you know, enablers like us or distributors like us. We've already cut through all of that. We've already made the decisions on their behalf. we've already chosen the right solutions that we think would fit the particular market segments that we're going after. And then it's about building the trust and the relationship with them to say, all right, well, you can trust us to deliver X, Y, and Z, and then you prove it along the way. But yeah, there's so much choice out there at the moment that, and it feels like every day there's something new coming out. So being that trusted advisor for the partner community is something that I think is of great value to them.
And Anand, your view on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting you say that, because on one side, I mean, you know, we've basically our core purpose for the last 20 years we've been doing this is to drive choice and drive fragmentation and continue to do that, because ultimately in this space you want to drive as much end user choice as possible so things don't become monolithic, right? Just more from a purpose-based standpoint. So on one side, we're kind of promoting that noise because we want to put as many providers out there with toolboxes that they can create their own services from and integrate from. But we have to continue doing that because, you know, ultimately we have to keep, you know, the playing field level. So, you know, embracing the fragmentation, trying to drive the independent providers that are out there, you know, you speak to somebody like somebody like a Microsoft, for example. You know, we embrace that with an integration because it's a choice for some of our providers, but some of our providers are only hitting a subsegment of, you know, providers that go after that market. But yet there's an integration because there's a set of features or a specific use case that only our platform can provide. And so they need to be able to provide both. So it's about choice and it's about embracing that fragmentation from our perspective.
I was just going to add to that. I think from a vendor perspective as well, once you choose that vendor as a distributor, enabler, whatever anyone's calling themselves these days, you want your vendor to be able to do what Anand is saying there. Like, you want them to be able to deliver a lot of services to market because you've chosen them as that vendor. You don't want to go back to market looking for a new one. So I think from a vendor perspective, that's a very good comment that you made, that when, you know, people like us choose a vendor, we're looking for them to be able to deliver not only that one thing, but continue investing in the market and growing and being a challenger brand within that space.
Fantastic. We've got a couple of minutes left. I kind of want to pose a final question to the panel, and I'm going to ask everyone this. What's the biggest challenge to your business that you see in the next 5 years?
As I said before, we are the dinosaurs in this house. I'm sorry to say that. So as I told in the last panel, 50% of our new customers are on-prem. So still on-prem. So what is our, we don't see challenges at the moment. It's more like we are in the phase like 4 or 5 years ago in the UK. It's quite strong growth in this market in our area. So cloud penetration between 6 and 12% in Germany. There's still a way to go up, and I think the projection says 50, 60% within the next 3, 4 years. So this is going to drive us really quickly. At the same time, we say, okay, well, we have to keep up the speed, of course, and then not fall into a big hole like, well, what's now? What happens next? So we have challenges, but quite nice challenges at the moment.
Fantastic. And Nathan, to you, the same question.
Skills. Yeah, quite simply, you know, if we look at the speed at which technology is developing, I don't know if any of you caught Microsoft's Ignite stuff about their Copilot program across all their different platforms and Azure Cognitive Services and, you know, Copilot Studio and all this sort of stuff. You know, and these are all just amazing tools that the channel could do some really brilliant things for SMB customers with. But we've got to be ahead of the channel, and the market is moving so quickly. You know, I think it's 18 months ago ChatGPT was launched, right? And we all think it's been here forever. Yeah. The speed at which it's going. So for us, skills is the number one thing that will hold us back.
Fascinating. And Brad, to you.
So I think one is people. I think we're going to have an entire new generation of people coming out of university, school, into the market segment that are going to not only be consuming our services in a completely different way, but also working with us. So we as business leaders, the way that we work with current staff is going to change. So how we deal with that moving forward is going to be an opportunity, but also something that we're all going to have to get used to. And then I think there's going to be very big vendor consolidation in the next coming year. So I would say that, you know, from depending on what type of vendor you're dealing with, but that could potentially be an opportunity or a threat for your business depending on who that is and who buys who.
Great. And Anne, to close us off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think that, you know, filtering the noise. I mean, for us, the biggest challenge is, you know, we can do anything as a company, but, you know, at the end of the day, no matter how much capital you raise or how many resources that you have, you still have to make the choice of what you can and can't do. So figuring out what not to do, you know, when you have such a large customer base, and making sure that you're picking off the, you know, the right objectives, I think is the biggest challenge. And then having the appropriate team members to do that, because in this space, you've got the behemoths like the Microsofts and the Googles and the Zooms and people like that are, you know, also in the space, you know, obviously creating a lot of noise.
Fantastic. Well, I'd like to say massive thank you to our panel. It's been great hearing the varied views and varied insights across the different countries, cultures, products. So thank you all, and big round of applause. Thank you.